Alright, today we are going to talk about how I think I may have accidentally stumbled upon the blueprint or the framework for how to become an above average, I won't say world class or like some elite or anything like that. I'll say how to become above average, how to become an above average athlete while hypermobile and neurodivergent. So the main idea is that if you look at my long-term athletic development history, basically as a kid, as a little kid, like elementary school and younger, I was extremely fucking slow at running, and I was very clumsy. I was walking, trying to run with like bricks in my feet, you know what I mean? It was like my legs were like someone else's legs. Like it was just like, and this is confirmed by my parents, it was like I was just slow as a kid. And it's like every sport, from middle school, I was just like very confused. I didn't understand sports. We had some like basketball and stuff in elementary school, and I just remember not getting it at all. Because obviously youth sports instruction is mainly taught in a top-down type of way, not a bottom-up neurodivergent type of way. So I just like didn't get it. And because it wasn't like a systematic, you couldn't form like that sort of mental model or where you systematically know every aspect of the game. It was just like, just like a bunch of kids playing around, and you figure it out sort of through that neurotypical way of reading social cues. So I was just very confused, and I was like not understanding it at all. And then, so middle school, I actually liked playing volleyball. That was the first sport I really liked. And I think looking at it from this lens, it makes sense, because volleyball, especially because I've been 6'1" since I was like 13 years old. So I was a middle blocker. And that's like, you know what you're doing. It's like a system. You gotta stand here so you don't get a foul call, and then you move here after the serve, and then it's literally like a flow chart. It's like if-then system. And the thing is, so is every other sport. So is basketball. It's like if the defender sags off, you shoot. If their feet are this way, you drive this way. If help defense comes, then you do this, or if this happens, then you do that. But the thing is, volleyball, I feel like that's the only sport where either it's just taught this way, or the flow chart is simple enough for kids to understand it. So, because basketball, when you're like kid basketball, they're kind of just like, it's not really taught in that systematic type of way. Or maybe that's just my experience with kid basketball, youth basketball. But it's like volleyball at a youth level is taught in a very systematic way, to where you kind of understand the game. And then once I had developed that, and that was like, at the time I didn't know that's why I liked volleyball. It was just like, I thought, and another aspect is movements in volleyball are like very, I'd say rigid, or very repeated. Like as a middle blocker, all you're doing, there's not much variability, I'd say. It's like the Bruce Lee saying, like, practice one kick 10,000 times. It's like basketball, you got to know 100 different moves and kind of blend them all together, which for a developing hypermobile mind where the brain has poor proprioception, it's hard for the brain to sort of blend everything together. It's like early like LLM or like neural nets where they could like put together a paragraph, but it like just sounded like, it like sort of sounded like it had the flow of a normal English paragraph, but then it was like, it would just be nonsensical. Like, so it's like, I didn't have enough training data for my body to blend a bunch of movements together. Versus with volleyball, like, what are you doing? You got your 3-step approach jump, 2 foot jump to go for a spike. You got your different 2 foot approach, 3 foot approach to go for a block over the net. You got a serve, which is just a simple, because basically I don't need to list out every single action in volleyball, but it's basically every action is kind of a repeated action where it's not like a repeated action without variation. Well, you could say there's small variations, because like spiking, for example, the set is not going to be in the exact same spot every time. But I was also not spiking that much. It was like, if you're going for a block, you just go up to the net and you jump. You're not jumping slightly different every time. Like in basketball, every drive is not the same, because every possession, the defender is going to move slightly different, so your brain has to adjust. And that's like, for someone who's hypermobile, that's just a lot of variables, versus volleyball is a lot less. So that's why I think I naturally gravitated towards it as a kid. And so back to the original point, which was that the blueprint for how to become an above average athlete with hypermobility is basically to collect as much training data as possible, varied training data, varied experiences. Like, if you think, going back to the LLM analogy, the modern LLMs only got good after they hit a certain point of the amount of training data. Because LLMs, basically neural networks have existed since the 80s, but the problem was not an architecture problem. The problem has always been a data problem. And like, how can you get a lot of good quality data and have enough processing power to train a neural network large enough? So that's how I feel about being hypermobile. It's like, I'd say not being hypermobile is like having a simpler model. Like, instead of a neural net, say you are maybe linear regression, or like a quadratic model, or something where the model can perform better with a lot less data. Versus a neural network, you need a ton of data, because the inherent nature of the model is that it has a ton of different parameters that can be tuned to fit the data, versus a simpler model will have less parameters that can be played around with. So that's why essentially, and also the thing is, so that brings us back to the blueprint. So the blueprint, you got to start with strength training. I think if I had started lifting weights when I was like 10, my athleticism, I would have understood basketball, everything. Because it's like you gotta start from crawling, then you gotta walk, then you gotta run. But the problem is, most people, since their ligaments are giving their brains clear feedback, it's like, I think the best way to explain it is to use a car analogy, where people who aren't hypermobile, it's like a 2JZ, you know what I mean? Where 2JZ came off the factory, off the assembly line, and engine block was absolutely fucking bulletproof, like way overbuilt engine block, and all it needed was, you gotta tune it, put a big turbo, some shit on it, you know, but the engine block itself, it's already solid. Versus, so that's like, if you are not hypermobile, it's like you're like a Supra, you know, with a 2JZ, where the engine block itself, the engine block in this case being analogous to your ligaments. So you got a 2JZ engine block, it's fucking solid, just like you got ligaments that aren't stretchy, and you can go straight to tuning and getting more power. Versus with being hypermobile, it's like maybe more of like I'm not sure, I think this is accurate, but it's like you're more like a Subaru EJ engine, you know, like a Subaru Boxer, where it has the potential to make massive power, but the stock engine block, if you try to like just make all that power on the stock engine block, remember engine block being the ligaments, then you're going to blow a head gasket, you're going to blow the engine block, you're going to crack your engine block. So basically, before you can make all that power, you got to first get new head studs, new head gaskets, stronger like forged pistons, forged engine block, all that. Versus if you're not hypermobile, you can just get straight to making the power. So it's like, if you're hypermobile, you have to have, before you even like play sports at all, you got to start by lifting. Because not only is lifting like slow lifting, like not even like plyos, any shit like that. It's like, because lifting, not only is it building up your muscles to make up for the lack of ligament protection, but it's also the fact that it's slow and repeated movements that will basically teach your brain about your body through those slow and repeated movements. And it's like, because the thing, you can't just go straight to the complicated movements like normal mobility people. You got to start with a slow and controlled, so your brain gets comfortable with your body. It's like if you were in your body, like you know how to like walk around and do shit, but then if you got into like a mech suit or something, you would first have to be like, all right, what does this do? What does this do? Start with like simple movements, like maybe just like raising and lowering the arm of the mech, like taking one step slowly before you start like doing like crazy shit with the mech. So it's like there's like a level of disconnect, or like a level of dissociation, where it's like you have more to learn, and you have like your, like basically instead of starting at the starting line, you're starting like 50 meters behind the starting line. But if you have the right sort of protocol, which is what I am trying to create, trying to research, then you can catch up to the starting line like fast.